Hello and welcome to ArcGIS Instant Apps, building web apps with a purpose. My name is Krista McPherson, and I am a product engineer with the Holistic team, with an emphasis on ArcGIS Online and Instant Apps.
And hi, my name is Sarah McDonald, and I am a product engineer with the ArcGIS Online team, focusing on ArcGIS Instant Apps.
We will be guiding you through a tour of ArcGIS Instant Apps and how to build apps that fit your workflow, your audience, and your purpose. First, we will introduce Instant Apps, followed by a discussion of how to choose a template and create an instant app. Next, we will talk about configuring your app using the most essential settings and customizing your app to fulfill its purpose. We will conclude with a conversation about sharing your app with your audience. Let's start with introducing ArcGIS Instant Apps and discussing their characteristics. ArcGIS Instant Apps are quick, intuitive, configurable, and accessible. App authors can choose and create an app that fits their needs quickly. Instant app templates are designed to be intuitive to use and to build. Apps can be customized to create a unique experience for your app users. Instant apps are accessible for any audience, including mobile users and users working with assistive technology. Instant apps include templates that support maps, scenes, and groups. Templates like Media Map and Minimalist give you an opportunity to showcase your map in a simplified layout, while 3D Viewer, Attachment Viewer, and Imagery Viewer provide tools needed to interact with scenes, attachments, and image services respectively. Category Gallery showcases content shared to a group, and Portfolio lets you build a catalog of content. Interactive Legend allows you to filter data in your map, while Countdown provides a way to present an ordered list based on values in a given field. Nearby and Zone Lookup can be used to search for information based on location and proximity. Some of these apps may seem familiar, having been accessible via configurable apps in the past. Several configurable app templates have been migrated into the next generation configuration experience of ArcGIS Instant Apps, along with many brand new templates and more planned for the future. Instant Apps takes advantage of the latest ArcGIS API for JavaScript capabilities, which are available in Map Viewer and throughout ArcGIS Online. This includes smart mapping, label classes, as well as docked and multi-element pop-ups. For the remainder of the presentation, we will be using this map of COVID-19 vaccination locations, courtesy of GIS Core, to demonstrate how a single map can be used to create different apps depending on the intended purpose of your app. Next, let's talk about where to find instant apps in ArcGIS Online and how to create them. You can find instant apps in any of the usual places in ArcGIS Online for app creation, including My Content, Item Details pages, and Map Viewer. As of the April 2021 release, you can create instant apps directly from Map Viewer. When you choose to create an instant app from Map Viewer, this option analyzes the data and settings in your map to guide you towards choosing the most appropriate app for your purpose. In the following demo, we will see how to quickly choose an app template that fits your purpose. We will start with our map open in Map Viewer. As we can see, this map has two layers, one for vaccination and testing locations, and another for counties in Pennsylvania. Looking at the legend, we can see that the points are styled based on the status of the vaccination location. We can also see that this map has bookmarks for the major cities in the state of Pennsylvania, along with a bookmark to view the state as a whole. We can locate instant apps by clicking on Create App on the left-hand side of the map viewer and navigating to Instant Apps. A new tab will open in your browser, showing our entire library of instant apps available. You can see at the top here, there is a search box that allows you to search for apps based on the capabilities available in that app. Let's say you were looking for the screenshot tool. You could enter that name and the search results would allow you to view all apps that have the screenshot tool available. This first Browse All tab allows you to see all instant apps that are available, while Featured gives you a view of some of our more popular or newer apps. My Apps allows you to view and manage instant apps that you have previously created, as well as choose the same template for the new map that you have in Map Viewer. For now, we'll be focusing on Browse All. You can see by default that the apps are sorted by compatibility. You have the option to change this, but by default, this option sorts available apps based on an analysis of your map data and settings, and recommends which app might be best for your purpose. For each template, you can click on the drop-down arrow and view a description of the app template with some examples of what it could be used for. You will see some apps that have specific data requirements will have a warning message at the top, letting you know what may be missing from your app if you wanted to choose this template. These apps are also listed at the very bottom when sorting by compatibility. Each app has two main available options. The first is Preview. You can use this to preview your map using the default settings of the app. The Choose option would allow you to create an item and then immediately go to the configuration experience of the app. In this case, I want to use Preview before I make a choice. I'm going to preview Interactive Legend, which is the first app listed by compatibility. When the preview loads, I can see what my map would look like in the Interactive Legend template. This app allows me to filter data in my map based on values in the legend. So far, I like what I see. I can go ahead and choose this template, enter a title, and from here I can publish or choose to configure the app. I'm going to choose to publish my app right away, and then I may choose to go back and configure some different settings later. You can see with just a few simple steps, I quickly have an app that's ready to be shared. App viewers in this area can now view vaccination locations based on their status using this newly created app. We will talk more about configuring instant apps in the next section of the presentation.
Thanks, Krista. Now that we've looked at choosing an app and the instant app gallery, let's dive in to configuring an app. After choosing a template, an app author will enter the configuration panel for the app. This is where authors decide which tools to include in their app or how to style their app. While making these decisions, the configuration panel uses tooltips to inform authors on features and tools to use to fulfill the purpose of their app. The configuration panel greets app authors with a welcome screen conveying new and notable features to check out. In the configuration panel, an app author can choose between two setups, Express and Full Setup. By default, the app will open to Express Setup, which includes the most necessary tools that are required for a particular template. For instant app templates, we have identified a set of basic tools that are available in all apps. We recognize these tools as a standard set of map tools that can be crucial for navigating a map or exploring the data in a map. And finally, in the configuration panel, changes are automatically saved in a draft and are available in the app preview immediately. Let's start investigating these changes a little bit closer. While starting the configuration of a new app, the app setup by default uses Express Setup. Express Setup is designed to include the most necessary tools that are needed to have an app work successfully. In Express Setup, there are 4 steps. Each step includes settings that are specific to one area of app configuration. Step 1 is typically where an author would select the map, scene, or group that they are choosing to showcase in their app. Step 2, the About section, is where settings for including information to help readers understand what an app's main purpose is or what information they can find using this app. Step 3, interactivity. The tools listed in this section are typically for interacting with an app. For example, this might be where an app author can choose to include a search tool or adding a new search source for the tool. Step 4, theme and layout. The tools in this section are going to be for the style of an app, like choosing to use a dark or light theme and using the position manager to arrange tools. In each template's configuration panel, the set of tools that are available in Express Setup will be slightly different. This is because we want to make sure that the settings that are included fit with the app's main purpose. For example, earlier, Krista was demonstrating the use of the Interactive Legend app. In the Express setup of Interactive Legend, there are settings that are for the Legend tool, like the zoom to features or feature count, which are options that are available for the Interactive Legend. Express Setup is posed to assist app authors with creating and constructing an app quickly in order to begin distributing it to their viewers. As I mentioned earlier, Instant App templates are set up to include a basic set of mapping tools. These tools include the Home button, Zoom controls, Legend, Layer lists, Search, and Bookmarks, if they are available in that mapper scene. We found that these basic tools are useful in most, if not all, maps. In order to arrange these and other tools offered in apps, authors can utilize the Position Manager. The Position Manager, which is in the Theme and Layout section, offers the ability to drag and drop tools into the four corners of the app. Arrange all the tools that you as an author chose to include in an app to style the app the way that you want. Use the Position Manager to rearrange any settings into different corners of the app. In the configuration panel, all adjustments to settings or tools are immediately displayed in the app preview. These updates are saved as a draft for the app being configured. Once an author is ready to publish those changes, they can use the Publish button to push those updates to the final item. Likewise, if there are updates in a draft that are not needed or you want to revert back to the last published version, you can use the Delete Draft option. All right, now that we've talked about the configuration panel and Express Setup and some of the other features available, let's go ahead and take a look at a demo. In this demo, we are going to take a look at using Express Setup to configure a minimalist app. All right, let's get started. Let's get started with Minimalist in Express Setup. Here we can see that I'm using the same map as Krista, the vaccination locations in Pennsylvania. For the purpose of this demo, let's say that I am working with the state and just received this nationwide data set of vaccination locations. I want to get these locations out to residents in my state as soon as possible. I want to use a template that will showcase the map, deliver attribute information about each location, and include basic map tools. For those reasons, I am going with minimalist. All right, let's get down to it. Since I already have my map chosen, I'm going to skip to step 2. In step 2, I'm going to adjust the title of my app and just a side note, we can see that this auto-updated in the app preview. That's what we were talking about a few slides ago when we were talking about autosave and the draft functionality in the configuration panel. From there, I'm going to change the panel open at start to be the details panel and enable the pop-up panel. Great. That's it for that step. Let's go to the next one. In step 3, interactivity, I want to enable the bookmarks tool. I already had bookmarks set up in my web map, and I want my app viewers to be able to utilize those as well. My bookmarks have been set up to focus on highly populated areas, so let's go ahead and toggle that on. And over here, we can see that now the bookmarks are available, and there are those highly populated areas. From there, we will keep the search defaults and go to the next section. For step 4, theme and layout, I'm going to keep the shared theme enabled and keep using light theme. From there, I'm going to use the position manager to move the bookmarks tool to be in the top left corner. I am just going to drag and drop that tool into the top left position. All right, that's it. I'm going to publish this app now. Okay, now let's go ahead and launch the app, and we'll see what our ending item is. Great. This looks like exactly what I needed. Let's try out the bookmarks in the pop-ups tool that we enabled. All right, let's go to Pittsburgh, and let's go ahead and select a feature. From here, we can see that I'm using that pop-up panel to display this information about these locations. Using Express Setup, we were able to add tools that enhance our map and then quickly publish the app that was ready to share out to residents. All right, now let's go back to the slides and let's take a look at further customizing the configuration experience. All right, and we're back. Now that we've had an introduction to the configuration panel for Instant Apps and Express Setup, let's take a deeper dive into Full Setup in the configuration panel. With Full Setup comes the options to further customize an app to fulfill its purpose. Customizing an app takes the configuration experience to the next level. Now, rather than focusing on the most necessary settings, we can truly cater certain settings or options to fit the story that an app is trying to tell. With the increase of settings and options in Full Setup, the configuration panels offer the ability to search for settings or options. For example, if I already know that I want to add the base map toggle tool to an app, I can search for base map and should be directed to the base map toggle setting in the configuration panel. One of the more recent settings that was added to most Instant App templates is the navigation boundary. The navigation boundary allows for app authors to create an area of interest that will be focused on in the map. We can take a look at using Web Analytics as well. Web Analytics is a tool that app authors can use to capture app activity, like page views or how many app viewers are using mobile devices. Finally, after looking into those options, we will explore Full Setup in the nearby Instant App template. After switching to Full Setup, an app author will notice that they are presented with many more options and settings. In the demo, we will explore the differences between the two setups in a template. In Express Setup, the configuration panel offers the most critical tools just to get the app up and running. In Full Setup, we will see that we still have those types of tools, along with more tools that we can enable and configure that can customize the feel of an app. Some apps can come with a plethora of tools that an author can use to customize their app. In Full Setup, we have made an effort to organize those tools in an orderly fashion. If you know what tool you're looking for and want to access it right away, there is the ability to search for that tool or option by using the search settings in the top left corner of the configuration panel. From here, let's say you wanted to change the legend style that your app uses. Type in legend into the search dialog, and from there, you'll be navigated to the legend settings in the app. One of the tools that is offered in full setup in map-based templates is the navigation boundary. This tool can be incredibly useful for app authors that want to focus in on a specific location in the map. Using the navigation boundary, an app author can set a map scale. This setting will set a visibility range for the map. That way, an app viewer will only be able to zoom in and out to a specified range. Along with the map scale, an app author can define an extent that an app viewer can pan to in the map. Using this setting, the app author can draw a bounding box or identify a specific location that the map will focus in on. This would limit how far away an app viewer can pan from the starting default location of the map. Finally, using the navigation boundary, an app author can adjust the map's rotation settings. An app author can choose to prevent map rotation or designate a starting rotation for the map to start at. The navigation tool can be tremendously helpful for app authors to set a location that the app will focus on. Prior to publishing your app, something to consider might be to enable web analytics. If you have a Google Analytics account and are interested in capturing app activity, you can enter in a tracking ID to start monitoring app activity. Some of the topics that can be captured include, but are not limited to, page views, returning viewers, regions where a viewer is from, whether a viewer is using a mobile device or not, and how long a viewer stays on the app. If you choose to configure web analytics, you will have the option to include a consent message. An app author can customize what exactly they want their message to say and provide the option for app viewers to opt in to have their activity be captured. This opt-in message would appear upon the initial load of an app when configured. All right. For the purpose of this demo, we are going to take a look at using full setup in the configuration panel to build a nearby app. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we are starting with the same map that we've been working with for this presentation, the COVID-19 vaccinations map. For the purpose of this demo, let's say again that I am still acting as a professional working with the state to distribute information about COVID-19 vaccines. But for this app, I wanted to have a more focused exploration of the locations. I want the residents that I am supplying this app with to have the ability to identify vaccine locations within a certain distance of their location or a specific location. For that reason, I chose to use the nearby template. All right, so here we are in a new nearby app. The first thing that I am going to do is switch to full setup. To do this, I'm going to the left navigation bar and finding the full setup button. All right, and I'm sure I want to switch, so let's go ahead and do that. Great, now I'm in full setup. Again, I already have a map configured, so we can skip to the next section, which similarly to Express Setup is the About section. The first thing I'm going to do is add a new title. So let's go ahead and we'll paste that in, and we can see the title auto update still, even in full setup. Then I'm going to go and adjust the introduction panel title so that it's more customized to the use of my app. I'm going to add Welcome PA Residents. Great. Now there's a bit of a more catered feel for app viewers. Okay, let's head to the next section. The Nearby section includes tools that I can use to configure the results and search buffer returned in the app. Let's go to display results. I want to change the search radius returned in my app to be a blue color. So I'm going to toggle the tool and choose a blue. That tool is going to be this override default search radius style. So let's toggle that on. And here's that blue that I want. And just so we can take a look at that, if we click on an area in the map, that's going to be using that new blue. Okay, let's go ahead and configure some of the results settings now. So we'll go back and we'll head to the results panel section. Now I only want my vaccination locations to appear in the results panel. So I'm going to check this box here so that now if I do that and I make a search, I only have these locations appearing. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to set up some filters for this app. I want to set up some filtering options so that app viewers can identify certain locations for specific needs. So let's go to the filters section. As we can see, filtering is enabled, so now I just need to select my layer and I can get started. For this app, I want to set up filters that will acknowledge locations that have accessibility support and are available for drive-through. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll select the layer. Okay, let's go ahead and change the layer display name to be vaccine locations. And then we can start setting up some of these filters. So for the first one, let's set up the accessibility support. So we'll click on Add Filter, and we'll hit Add Expression. So in here, we'll choose the field, which is Accessibility Support. And let's go ahead and choose Includes, and we'll select those values. So we'll say yes, and we'll do partly as well. And then we'll hit Done. And we'll choose this filter display name to be Accessibility Support. And we'll hit Save. And then we'll add that other filter that will designate drive-through facilities. So we'll add another one. We'll go to Add Expression. And from here, we'll choose Drive-through, Includes, and we'll do yes and yes for vaccination. And we'll hit Done. And for this filter display name, we will choose Drive-through Available. And we'll hit Save. So now we see that we have this filter option here. We can click on it and we can see that we can turn on filters now. Okay, now let's head to the interactivity section. Let's first head to Explore and Navigate. I know that the navigation boundary tool that we talked about earlier is located there. And that is something that I want to set up in my app. So let's head there. We can see that some of our basic map tools are still here. Let's go ahead and enable the bookmarks tool just because we do have bookmarks in this map. All right, and now we can start with the navigation boundary. Let's go ahead and configure it. So for this boundary, I want my app viewers to stay within the state of Pennsylvania. I'm okay if they go outside of it a little bit, but I want the focus to be on the state. So let's go ahead and we'll set the zoom out scale to be states. And I want my zoom in scale to just be pretty local, but not as far in as you can normally go. So let's go ahead and make this town. So that way we have a bit of a scale. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define the extent. So I'm going to click on this polygon here, and I will just draw my new boundary around the state. Great. I'm not going to change any of the rotation settings, and I'm going to leave those, but let's go ahead and hit confirm. And now we can see I can't go out any further. If I try to zoom out further, I can't, and I can only zoom in to the specified amount. All right, I think that's it for the exploration tools. But I still want to add a legend, and I'm not really sure where that tool is, so I'm going to use the search settings. Let's go up and let's turn that on, and let's search for legend. And here we can see that we have a drop down of the legend settings. Let's go ahead and click on legend. And from here, we already get navigated to the about section. So let's go ahead and toggle that legend tool. And I also want the legend opened when the app loads. So we'll turn that on as well. Okay, great. So the last thing I want to do is we'll go to the theme and layout section to customize the app's look. So from here, we'll go to the theme section. Now for this app, I don't want to use shared theme, so I'm going to disable that. And I want to use dark theme, so let's turn on dark theme. Great. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to change my header background color and text color. I want to use a blue, similar to how I have in my search buffer. So let's toggle on the header background color to use that blue. And then let's make sure that text color is going to be white still. Great. Okay, so that's going to be it for the theme and layout settings. And I think that we're good to go, but the last thing that I really want to do is I wanted to set up the web analytics. I do have that tracking ID here. So let's go ahead and set it up. Over here on the left navigation bar, we can see that we have a web analytics setting. So we'll go ahead and open that up. I already have my tracking ID here. So we'll paste that in. And we'll hit next. And now I do want to have that consent message. So let's go ahead and toggle that on. And I have my consent message here. So let's go ahead and paste that in. Great. Okay, so let's go ahead and submit that. And now I'm ready to publish my app. So let's go ahead and click the publish button. And then once it's published, we'll go ahead and launch it, and we can take a live view of the app. So let's go ahead and launch that app. Great, and the first thing that we see is that consent message for our web analytics. For the purpose of this app, we'll opt in. And great, I can see that my legend is open on the load. I have that intro panel title. Everything's looking pretty good so far. Let's go ahead and do a search now. Let's first use the bookmarks tool, and let's go to Philadelphia. Okay, and let's go ahead and use some of those filters. So I want to find locations that do provide accessibility support. So let's go ahead and toggle that filter on. And we can see that the map automatically will filter out some of those results already. If we hover over here on the filter tool, we can see that the accessibility support toggle is on. So we're good there. Now let's go ahead and do a search. Let's go around downtown Philadelphia. Great, and I found a location. So here we have a location that does provide accessibility support. I'm glad that we were able to take a look at adding a more custom feel to the nearby app. Now I'll go ahead and pass the mic back to Krista, and she'll cover a bit more about our instant app templates.
Now that your app has been created, configured, and customized, it's ready to be shared. Let's take a look at the options available for sharing instant apps and discuss how instant apps are designed to be shared with any audience. All instant apps can be shared to a group, an organization, and shared publicly, using the same workflow as any other item in ArcGIS Online. It is important to keep in mind that there are general guidelines and best practices that we recommend following when building apps for a large audience. These include using ArcGIS Online hosted feature layers and feature layer views when possible, disabling sync and editing options, setting cache control, and creating attribute filters. Links to more information about best practices for high-demand apps will be included in the presentation resources. Many instant apps include sharing options such as social media sharing, screenshot, and print that authors can choose to enable in their apps. These options provide the app viewer with methods to share the app with others or capture images of the app. Sometimes one app only tells part of your story. Instant apps can be embedded within other apps in ArcGIS Online, including hub sites, story maps, and Experience Builder. All instant apps can be embedded, but the simplified layouts of MediaMap and Minimalist make these templates a good choice for embedding in other apps and busier web pages. Instant apps are designed to be mobile responsive, ensuring that mobile users and desktop users have the same app experience. You can see how your app will look in a mobile view using the mobile device preview in the Instant Apps configuration experience. Like many other elements of ArcGIS Online, each app is able to detect the locale settings of the browser on which the user is viewing it and adapt the language settings in the app. This allows app viewers to interact with the app in their preferred language without any additional configuration required by the author. ArcGIS Online currently supports over 25 languages. Instant apps and the configuration experience are both designed to support the use of assistive technology as a part of a continued effort to improve the accessibility of ArcGIS Online for all users. Users with limited mobility may use the keyboard to navigate instead of a computer mouse. The functions available in instant apps are keyboard focusable and interactive with keyboard navigation. These functions are also accessible with a screen reader, so that they can be understood by individuals with low or no vision. All map and scene-based apps include an option in the configuration panel to add a description of the map that will be read by a screen reader when the app viewer is focused on the map element. This helps users with limited vision to interact with your app successfully. In the following demo, we will demonstrate a few of the options available for sharing your app to your audience. For this demo, we'll be taking a look at the portfolio template, which includes one of our newest features called Cover Page. This option allows you to set a cover page using a color or an image. We will be using the Views option in the configuration panel to take a look at what this app will look like on a mobile device. When we click on Views, we see a few options, the primary one being Desktop, which is what we're currently looking at. Clicking on Portrait allows us to see what this app might look like in a mobile device. Landscape shows us a similar view, but with a mobile device that is oriented in the landscape direction. Before we share this app, let's go ahead and add the other apps that were created in the demos today using keyboard navigation. I will be using the Tab and Shift keys to navigate through the configuration panel and add the items. You can follow this navigation using the highlighted element in the configuration panel. I'll hit Enter to select Browse for New Content. And select my Interactive Legend app. I can also select and reorder the items in my portfolio using only the keyboard. As you can see, the configuration experience is designed to be keyboard accessible for users who are not working with a computer mouse. I will add the remaining apps we created today before we go ahead and get ready to share. Now that we have all our apps added, let's navigate to the interactivity section and take a look at some of the share options. For this app, I'm going to enable print and social sharing to give app viewers the option to print or share this app to the platform of their choice. Let's go ahead and publish this app. Once we launch this app, we can see that it opens with our cover page. The published app is also keyboard accessible, giving users the ability to interact with the sharing options, navigate between sections, and relaunch the cover page using the keyboard. Let's take a look at what this app would look like if we updated the locale settings in our browser by adding a URL parameter. You can see now that the app options and controls are now translated into Spanish. Your app is now ready to be shared with any audience. To conclude our presentation, we hope that you remember that Instant Apps can help you find one or many apps that fit your purpose, offering a guided template selection process through Map Viewer and the ability to configure the most essential settings with Express Setup. Instant Apps allow you to create a highly customized app experience through the full setup and allow you to share your app to any audience with confidence. Our team is ready to hear from you. If you have any questions or feedback for the Instant Apps team, visit us on Esri Community or reach out to one of us directly. This concludes the technical presentation. Now we will transition to our moderator for the Q&A.
Great presentation, and thank you everyone in the audience for joining us and for hanging in there while we resolved some technical issues. I'm Marianne Ferretta. I'm a product manager on the ArcGIS online team, and I have with me today Sarah and Krista to answer your questions. We're a little short on time, but I guarantee you can contact us by clicking those tiles for additional experts, or contact me or Krista or Sarah if we don't make it to your question. We'll be very glad to connect with you outside of this Q&A session. So with that, our first question goes to Krista. Krista, Instant Apps feels very similar to the Web App Builder. Will Instant Apps be replacing the Web App Builder?
So Instant Apps are really a series of templates that are intended for focused workflows. We talked about nearby for finding local resources, or interactive legend for filtering. Web App Builder is a separate experience. If you're looking for that high level of customization, adding all your own widgets, that's still going to be an option for you. So they are not, Instant Apps are not a replacement for Web App Builder.
Great, thank you so much. Next question goes to Krista. Do Instant Apps allow users to edit data? What would be the best template or solution for altering a single field from a domain?
So at this time, there are no editing options available in the Instant Apps, but that is feedback that we hear and that we understand and that we're considering. But at the moment, there is not an editing option within the Instant Apps.
Great, thank you. Now we'll turn to Sarah. Sarah, if I have an app already deployed as a configurable app, is it automatically updated to the latest functionality of Instant Apps, or does it need to be redeployed to be up to date?
Yeah, so based on that question, so yes, you will have to redeploy the app. Some of the things that are slightly different are the configuration experiences. So to get that Instant App capability, you will have to go in and recreate the app essentially, but you should be able to use the same map. And then you'll be able to access all those new tools and capabilities.
And that includes that express setup or the full setup, right?
Exactly.
So with that express setup, it's a pretty light lift to go from one to the other.
Yeah, should be a pretty quick setup. I don't know if everybody saw the plenary yesterday, but they actually went through minimalist with Express, and it was almost instantaneously, it seemed like.
Instant. Perfect.
Yeah, right.
Thanks. Next question will stay with you. Is it possible to have a public instant app, but have a feature layer behind the web map, not accessible for the public?
Yeah, so with that, it can be a little tricky. Typically, if you're using layers that are hosted in ArcGIS Online, everything will need to be made public or have the same sharing capability. Otherwise, you will get prompted to sign in. With that being said, if you do have feature layers coming from a personal server, we have seen where that the app will be public still, but you will get that prompt that you have seen, like sign into the like the server or the org from your enterprise account. So that will be the case, but we do encourage people to have similar sharing as far as like the layer, the web map, and the app. So that's probably a best practice there, just so you don't run into any issues with prompting logins.
To keep it consistent. And when you said personal server, are you referring to maybe your own server that has ArcGIS Enterprise on it?
Exactly.
Okay, great, thank you.
I did want to add to that quickly.
Sure.
And Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're hosting your layers in online, we do support feature layer views. So if you needed to create a view and share that publicly, that would work just fine with your feature layer, remaining as it is. So views can be an option for that. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Thank you. Krista, question for you. Will instant apps be available in ArcGIS Enterprise in addition to ArcGIS Online?
So yes, as you may know, if you're an enterprise user, the ArcGIS Online release cycle cadence is a little bit faster. So we do test our apps to make sure that they work with enterprise and that they're compatible there. Just can take a little bit of time to catch up release cycle wise, but those apps, there are several available in the latest version of enterprise, and that is the plan to make sure they all are.
Great, thank you. And let's talk a little bit about Android and iPhone. Will these apps be available in both of those platforms?
So just to clarify with that question a little bit, these are web-based apps. So you're viewing them in a browser. Now, there are some ways that you can, I know attachment viewer is often used with App Studio and then can be made into a native app. We didn't talk a lot about that, but there's documentation available about that. You can reach out to us if you have questions about that. But all of these web apps in general are browser-based. So if you open them on a mobile browser on any type of device, they should function the same. So hope that clears that up.
Thank you. Yeah. Sarah, do you have to use the new map viewer to use instant apps?
So no, you don't. You can use the classic map viewer or a map created in a classic map viewer. The difference there is that you can access instant apps and the new instant app creation process that Krista demoed in the presentation directly from map viewer. If you do want to use classic map viewer and you want to create instant apps directly from classic map viewer, it does use our older app gallery and app creation process, but instant apps are a category in that gallery, so you should be able to access them there. But to go back on to answer that question, you can use classic map viewer web maps or map viewer web maps to create instant apps.
Great, thank you. And another question for you. What is the best practice for configuring instant apps? Should we still configure as much as possible in the data and the web map before configuring the instant app itself?
Of course, so that can be, I want to, if we want to get further into that question after the presentation, if whoever asked that wants to contact me directly, I can kind of go in further to that. But so instant apps do have very focused workflows. We do try to set these apps up based around certain data capabilities. For example, attachment viewer, if you have attachments, it's a great app to display those. We do always like to say it's a best practice to configure your web maps just so your apps can really showcase the data that you have. So configuring bookmarks in the web maps, configuring your pop-ups so that we can actually really highlight those capabilities. So I would say yes, it is it is best to do as much in the web map before bringing it into the Instant App, just so we can use some of those tools in an Instant App to really highlight those capabilities.
Thanks. Let's talk a little bit about crowdsourced information. How would you advise someone who's heading toward crowdsourcing when they're faced with selecting an Instant App?
Of course. So and maybe we might need to clarify that question a little bit, but as Krista mentioned, so we don't really have any editing tools available currently in the Instant Apps. It is something that, you know, we would like to explore a little bit more, but as of right now, that's not available. So as far as adding new features with an Instant App in a feature layer, that's really not there. Depending on if you just want to display the data that has been crowdsourced, I think again, it's just going to be which template's going to work the best. For example, I have seen people use Attachment Viewer to display crowdsourced data. Similarly to, for example, if you had a layer that might be like damage assessment, somebody's gone out and they've posted a survey to collect information about damage assessment after a storm or potentially a forest fire. Attachment Viewer can be a really great application to display that data, because if there are images or videos, you can really utilize that main stage in the app to display those, along with a attribute panel to display some of the responses from a potential survey like that. But so it really just depends on kind of what you're looking for. I would suggest if you do have a web map with crowdsourced data in it, and you're not sure what template to use, our new app creation process does offer the option to preview a lot of the apps. So I would recommend, you know, if you're not sure, maybe going in there and previewing how your web map might look in some of those Instant Apps.
That's great. Thank you. And we have time for one last question, but again, please do not hesitate to contact me or Krista or Sarah or any of the additional experts. We'll be really excited to share this with you and connect with you and learn what you're doing. So please reach out. Our last question goes to Krista, and that question is there an option to have the layers with checkboxes to turn layers off and on, similar to the web app builder? I think your mic.
Forgot to unmute. Yeah. We do have the layer list available in the majority of our map. I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure there's available in almost all of the Instant Apps, if not all. But the layer list is available, and that's definitely something you can choose to add. And in our last minute, I see someone asked, when will Instant Apps be launched? And I just wanted to say they are live and ready to go. They are in. If you have an ArcGIS Online account, you can try them out right now.
That's great. Thanks, everybody.